All right, get ready, because today we're going deep, really deep into the secrets animals use to survive.
Oh, yeah. We've got studies and research on how they make it in the toughest spots on Earth. Think deserts.
The Arctic.
You name it. We're talking extreme.
Definitely not a casual stroll through the park, right?
No way.
Yeah.
This is about taking what animals do, their tricks, and figuring out how we can use them, like practical stuff.
Okay, so whether I'm out hiking, prepping just in case, or I just love nature, this is for me.
You got it.
I am all about that. So let's hit the desert first. That's got to be one of the toughest places to make it, for animals and us.
Absolutely. And the first thing, the biggest thing, is not getting fried by the sun.
Right, because it's hot.
So a lot of desert animals, they've gone nocturnal. They just avoid the daytime heat altogether.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like instead of that less is more desert look, maybe I need to think layers, right? If a camel can handle thick fur, I can put on a shirt.
Exactly. Those loose clothes, they create a barrier. It's like the camel's fur. And that slows down how fast you sweat. Helps you keep water.
So be a camel, in a way. Be smart about what you wear, even if it seems weird when it's that hot. What other tricks do camels have?
Well, they can control their body temperature amazingly well. Way better than we can. So they don't lose much water by sweating.
So it's not just the clothes, it's how your body deals with the heat, too. Anything else we can learn from them about water?
Definitely. Think about desert birds.
Okay.
They find any little bit of shade to rest in and cool off.
Yeah.
Simple. But humans can do that too. Really effective.
Yeah, sometimes the simple stuff works best. But shade's not easy to find in the desert. What about actually finding water? It's not like there's a map to the nearest oasis.
Well, you might be surprised. Animals are great at finding water, and we can learn from them. One thing is to look for their trails.
Oh, okay.
If you see paths, like animal paths, coming together in a V shape, that might mean they're all going to and from water.
So follow the animal highway, basically. Like they're leaving breadcrumbs of hydration.
That's it. It's all about paying attention to what's around you. Just like those sand bushmen in the Kalahari. They watch baboons, birds, to find water.
So they're tuned into nature, and that's how they survive.
Yeah, their survival is all about knowing nature. It's incredible.
It is.
And it shows how important observation is. Even tiny details like animal paths can be huge in a survival situation.
Okay, so we got animal trails. What else should we watch for?
Birds are great too. See which way they're flying, especially around sunrise and sunset.
Got it.
They often hang out near water.
So a flock all going the same way at sunset, maybe check it out in the morning, like a feathered GPS.
You got it.
Yeah.
And this isn't just for surviving in some crazy situation. This observation stuff, it's useful all the time. It makes you more aware of what nature's telling you.
Right, it's like learning a secret language. You
Yeah.
mentioned those sand bushmen. Do they have any other desert secrets?
Oh, they are experts at finding water where you'd least expect it. Like they'll look for greener plants, damp ground, even just damp spots in a dry riverbed. Sometimes they'll even dig at bends in the riverbed and boom, water.
Wow, they can just sense where the water's hiding. Makes you realize how much we've lost that connection.
It's true. But the cool thing is, we can learn that connection back, from people who've mastered it. Okay, ready to ditch the desert heat and get a little chilly.
Bring it on. Let's see what the Arctic animals can teach us. I'm ready for some cold weather wisdom.
All right, well, let's start with insulation. Think polar bears, Arctic foxes. They've got those thick fur coats, layers of fat, natural insulators. They keep those animals warm, even when it's way below freezing.
Like a built-in parka, huh? And I bet that means layers are important for us, too.
Exactly. The more layers you wear, the more air gets trapped, like the animal's fur. And remember wool. Wool is key in cold climates. It stays warm even when it's wet. Not like cotton.
Oh.
Cotton can actually make you colder if it gets damp.
So, dress like a polar bear. Be smart about the layers. I've even heard about stuffing dry grass or leaves between layers like extra insulation, like the animals do.
That's a great tip. It's about using whatever you've got, being creative. So what else do animals in the cold do to stay warm?
Well, I've seen those pictures of penguins all huddled together. Like a giant penguin blob. Is that something we can use too?
Absolutely. They can handle crazy cold by sharing body heat. They're always moving around in the huddle so everyone gets a turn in the warm middle.
So it's not just standing close, it's teamwork, making sure everyone gets warm.
That's it. And we can do that too. If you're stuck in the cold with others, huddling under blankets or a tarp, that can save your life.
Like those people who survived that plane crash in the Andes?
Yeah.
They huddled together in the wreckage, survived 72 days in below zero temperatures. That's amazing. We can really learn from nature how to get through tough times.
Absolutely. And there's another thing about those penguins. They're always shifting around in the huddle so the warmth gets shared evenly.
So you're not just passively huddling, you're actively working to keep everyone warm. That's powerful. What other Arctic animal tricks can we use?
Well, think about how they make themselves smaller in the cold. They curl up, to keep more heat in.
Like my cat does when it's cold. It's into a little fur ball. So if I'm caught in a blizzard with no shelter, curl up like a cat.
Exactly. Seems simple, but it can make a huge difference in how well you handle the cold. And don't forget about staying dry. Like musk oxen, they use their coats to block wind and snow. Humans need to stay dry too, by building windbreaks or finding shelter.
Makes sense. Even a simple windbreak or a snow cave can make a huge difference in staying warm.
It all adds up. And staying dry, that's important everywhere, not just in the Arctic. Basic rule of survival. Keeps you warm and prevents hypothermia. Okay, ready to leave the frozen tundra? We've got more to explore.
Absolutely. What's next on our animal survival adventure? Okay, we face the desert heat and the Arctic freeze. What other extreme places can we learn from?
How about the ocean?
Yeah.
Being stuck out there on a boat or something, that's a whole different set of problems.
Yeah, I bet. It's like the opposite of being on land. You're surrounded by water but can't drink it.
Exactly. And that's where we can learn from the pros, the ones who live in the ocean all the time.
All right, let's get some wisdom from the sea creatures. What can they teach us about staying alive out there?
Well, one of the biggest things is, like you said, finding drinkable water. But ocean animals, they figured out how to live in salt water.
So they have some built-in, desalination thing.
Well, not exactly, but pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
Some seabirds, like albatrosses, gulls, they have special glands that get rid of extra salt so they can drink seawater. And sea turtles do the same thing with their tear ducts. They basically cry out the salt.
Wow, so they literally evolved ways to make salt water okay to drink. Nature is wild. But humans, we didn't get those cool salt-removing powers. So how do we find fresh water out on the ocean?
Think about what's there, what you've got access to rain and fish. Lots of people who are lost at sea survived by collecting rainwater, just like animals do. Even desert birds, when they fly over the ocean, they wait for a storm to get fresh water.
So anything that can catch rain becomes super valuable, like a tarp, some clothes, anything, your own little oasis in the middle of the ocean.
Exactly. And then there's fish. Their flesh has water in it. You can even get a little moisture from their eyes, though I'll admit, that might not be the tastiest option.
Yeah, I think I'll stick to rainwater cocktails if I can. But I get it. Survival is about being creative with what you've got. Speaking of being resourceful, any other sea creatures we can learn from?
Ooh, one of the best survival lessons comes from sea otters.
Really? Those cute, fluffy things. What can they teach us about surviving in the middle of the ocean?
Think about how they sleep.
Okay.
They float on their backs, often wrapped up in kelp so they don't drift away. And get this, they hold hands in groups so they don't get separated. And that's actually a really important lesson for humans, too, if you're lost at sea.
So I should prioritize finding a friendly otter to hold hands with.
Well, a life jacket might be more practical.
Yeah.
But the idea is the same: stay together. People who survived shipwrecks and plane crashes, they had much better chances if they tied their rafts or life jackets together.
It makes sense. You're easier to spot for rescuers, and it's probably less scary when you're not alone in that situation. But what if you don't have rope or anything to tie yourself together?
Improvise. Use clothes, belts, anything you can find. If you're alone, try to tie yourself to something that floats, anything big. Even a piece of wood can save your life.
So be like a sea otter, cling to something, anything, so you don't drift away. Better to be tangled up than lost and alone out there. Any other ocean wisdom before we move on?
One more thing. The ocean, it's always changing. Pay attention to the currents and tides. They can help you, or they can make things worse.
So it's like being a sailor, learning to use the wind to your advantage.
Exactly. The ocean is powerful, but if we watch it, understand it, we can improve our chances of surviving.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired to learn more about the ocean now. But for now, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about some survival strategies that work everywhere, no matter where you are. Lessons from the animal world that are universally useful.
That's a good idea. And one of the biggest things animals teach us is to be prepared. To store resources for when times get tough. Like squirrels burying nuts for winter, or woodpeckers storing acorns.
Or those ants I'm supposed to be channeling always gathering and storing food. It's like a universal animal instinct.
It is. Animals know that good times don't last forever. So if you're in a survival situation and you find a lot of food or water, try to save some for later.
So even if I'm starving, don't eat everything right away. Think about the future. That takes discipline.
It's about balancing what you need now with what you might need later. If you can, dry or smoke meat, like some birds do, drying their catch in the sun. It's how you turn a feast into something that lasts.
I'm starting to see the wisdom in thinking like a squirrel, always prepping for winter no matter what time of year it is. What other universal survival skills can we pick up from animals?
Another one is rationing and efficiency.
So being careful with what you have, making it last. Is this where my ant colony skills come in handy?
Exactly. Animals don't waste anything. They're super efficient, and we can learn from that. Like, think about ants in a colony. Each ant takes only what it needs so the colony's food stores last.
So in a survival situation, rationing carefully and not wasting anything is key. Every bit of food and water is precious.
That's it. And don't forget about conserving your energy, too. Don't waste energy on things you don't need to do. Make every action count.
So less panic, more planning. Got it. Anything else we can learn from the animal world about surviving?
One more thing, and it might seem obvious, but it's crucial. Adaptability and observation. Animals are the best at these things. They're always watching their surroundings, learning, and changing their behavior to survive.
Okay, so be like a hawk, always scanning for danger and opportunity. What kind of things should we be looking at?
Everything. Weather, the land around you where you can find resources. Look for patterns, see what changes, and adjust your plans. Don't be afraid to switch things up based on what you learn.
That's a good reminder. Be flexible. Respond to the changes around you, just like animals do. I'm realizing that nature is full of these amazing survival guides. We just got to know how to read them.
That's exactly it. The animal kingdom is like a giant library of knowledge. We can learn so much from watching and understanding how they make it in their environments.
This whole deep dive has been eye-opening for sure. Deserts, the Arctic, the ocean, even the city. In each place, we found these amazing survival secrets from animals.
It's been quite the adventure, hasn't it? Hopefully it's made you look at nature in a new way with more wonder and appreciation.
It definitely has. So as we wrap this up, what's the one big takeaway you want people to remember? Welcome back to our deep dive. We've gone from the super hot desert to the depths of the ocean, finding all these incredible ways animals survive.
Yeah, and it's not just about cool animal facts. This stuff can actually help us, make us tougher and more resourceful, more in tune with the world around us.
Right. It's like Mother Nature wrote her own survival guide. But I heard there's one more adaptation we got to talk about. This one's really wild, maybe even a little creepy.
Oh yeah, this one's about a creature that takes relaxation to a whole new level. The wood frog.
Okay, I'm listening, but I'm a little scared too. What's so special about wood frogs?
They can freeze solid in the winter, and then, get this, they thaw back to life in the spring.
Wait, are you serious? They turn into like frog-sicles and then just come back to life when it warms up. That's like science fiction.
It's pretty amazing biology, for sure. They can handle temperatures below freezing by actually freezing like 2/3 of the water in their bodies.
Yeah. Okay, hold on. How do they not just, become frozen frog mush?
It's all about chemistry and sugar, actually. A special kind of sugar called glucose. When it gets cold, the wood frog's liver makes a ton of glucose, and that acts like antifreeze. It protects their cells from the freezing damage.
So they're basically pumping themselves full of sugar to survive the winter. That's a cold weather strategy I can get behind. But seriously, that's incredible.
It really is. And it makes you wonder, could humans ever do that? Could we handle that kind of extreme cold?
No, that would change how we explore in the winter. Imagine just put yourself on ice for a few months and wake up when spring comes.
It's a cool thought, right? We're not there yet, but the wood frog shows us that nature's full of surprises. It makes you rethink what's possible.
And it also highlights what we've been talking about this whole time, how amazing animals are at adapting. From tiny bugs to those freeze-proof frogs, they've found ways to thrive in the toughest spots.
And by studying them, we get clues about how we could be tougher and better problem solvers, too.
This whole deep dive has been a real eye-opener. We've covered deserts, the Arctic, the ocean, even the city. And in each place, we found these incredible survival tricks from animals.
It's been quite a journey, for sure. Hopefully you're seeing the natural world with a little more awe now, a little more appreciation.
Definitely. So as we wrap this up, what's the most important thing you want people to take away from this?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. Nature is the ultimate survival guide. When we pay attention to how animals thrive, we're tapping into millions of years of wisdom.
It's like having this huge library of knowledge just waiting for us to explore it. So keep learning, keep watching nature, and maybe your next hike or camping trip will feel totally different.
And remember, these lessons aren't just for extreme situations. They can help us be more resourceful and resilient in our everyday lives, more connected to the natural world.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.